long map. Even though it's a two-player map, even though it's not an enormous map, there's a fairly long distance, so generally when you try and send out your early overlords and everything, you don't have that much time to pull them back in when your opponent comes out with a Mutalisk. You don't have a lot of opportunities to save them, so you can kill, if you open up Mutalisk, you can kill off a lot of your opponent's overlords. You can actually get quite a few free overlords just for that extra bit of map control.
Yeah, that's absolutely true, and you know, a lot of times in ZVZ's players, you know, when they open a game, they're not shy about spreading their overlords, and if someone goes Muta, that could be a problem. But before we get to that point, let's talk about the players and where they're spawning. We do have here the Yellow Zerg, who was on the ropes after losing Game 1, but with the victory in Game 2, now is fighting for the opportunity to get into that winner's match. Playing for BrwL Esports, guys, it's PandaBearMe.
And his opponent, spawning up at the top side of the map, Bonnie Research Station. Won Game 1, but ended up losing Game 2 after his attack did not work out. What will he do in Game 3? It is Team Gravity's Gamja. So that last game, you know, Droopy, I'm not going to take anything away from PandaBearMe. He did a great job. He handled everything just textbook. How you defend against that kind of attack. But that attack from Gamja, it's a very risky thing to do. It's kind of a, well, this is either going to work really, really well because my opponent is either A, going to miss control, which PandaBearMe did not, or B, it's going to play a little bit too greedy and it's just going to catch him off guard. It's not one of those, this should do damage, and if it does enough damage, I can transition out. But as long as as long as I play it okay or play it out well, I'm gonna have a good chance of winning no matter what my opponent's doing. It's not one of those builds. It's one of those, I'm gonna really take a big risk because I'm up a game and see what I can make happen. So PandaBearMe winning that last game is awesome. But I think it was just Gamja saying, like, I have a game to play with. I can take a risk. And it didn't pay off, so now he just goes back to the same way he played in game number 1, play that safer style, that late game style, and I think that he's still going to be a big favorite to win this game and this series.
Yeah, and I think one thing Gamja can take from the last game, too, is PandaBearMe opened up the same exact way he did in game 1, which is, you know, delaying gas, trying to get the queens out sooner, perhaps even skipping speed again. And that's big because you can't do that kind of Bane Bust on somebody who delays gas like that and, you know, is thinking about creep spread and walling the front. It just, you know, it's hard countered by that. So that's why you're going to see Gamja doing that here again. No way. Not when the ramp is smaller.
It'd be really funny, though, if Gamja decided to, like, try and take advantage of the fact that there was no speed Zerglings out early on. I think it'd be kind of hard on a map like Vani just because, again, 2 queen wall off.
Yeah.
But yeah, maybe there's some kind of shenaniganry that he can pull. Gamja's a much smarter Zerg player than I am. But we're going to wait and see what these players have in mind for now. But PandaBearMe just turned on the Baneling Nest, playing a little bit on the safer side, especially in comparison to some of the previous games, where I think he would forego... Oh, no, sorry. Wow, I'm misreading colors. Promise I'm not colorblind. Gamja going for the Baneling Nest, which does make a bit more sense. Kind of plays into what they've been doing.
Yeah, you know, Gamja's kind of been... He did this in game 1, and very similar thing again, going with the Baneling Nest. Perhaps this time more likely just for defense purposes. He's going into Lair as well right now at 538, so let's see if he starts dropping down gases everywhere to really indicate he's going to Muta. We've seen him sort of have that preference in the past as far as things go for PandaBearMe. Waiting to see if he's going to get that Roach Horn again, because he isn't getting speed.
Well, we got a couple of gas geysers being thrown down for Gamja. Gamja with a very early lair tech again. This time, I will say, no Spinecrawler coming down. And yes, this map is nice for defending against early aggression, but with the Roach Horn coming down for PandaBearMe, same build as like all of the other games. PandaBearMe hits. There's not going to be the Spinecrawler. At least it doesn't seem like there's going to be. this could be the game that it's like game number 1, but it actually ends up working out.
Well, PandaBearMe needs to get his attack out sooner. That game number 1, the roaches were slow roaches, I might add, and there's a spire, in fact, for Gamja. So, you know, I guess Gamja, you're saying I'm going to go for mutas even faster, and I'm going to intercept your roaches as they walk over and get in more hits before they even have any hope of reaching my base. That may be just his strategy here. But as far as things go for PandaBearMe, he's got that roach speed started right now. That's already a big improvement over game 1.
And not only that, but I want to note something about Gamja's queen count. Because the queens are actually going to be pretty important if Gamja is not going to be going for any kind of defense at the front. If he's just relying on speed Zerglings to defend against the roaches, while the Mutals are able to try and pick away at the army, then it's actually very easy for PandaBearMe to just bypass these spine crawlers that are going up now and just split up his units between the main base and the natural expansion. You try and get damage done. You don't go after, say, the 3rd expansion line. You just try and split up your units, because the Mutals are something that do well when they're big and grouped up together, and they can take out one roach like after 2 or 3 shots. When you start splitting up the roaches, the Mutals just don't really know what to do. They take out the roaches very, very slowly, and you can get a lot of damage done. So I want to see something like that from PandaBearMe, but again, he's got to move out now.
Yeah, he does, because 8 mutas are in production right now, and let's face it, by the time, if he's even pushing out right now, and now he's committing to it, by the time he gets there, they're going to be out. So I guess the best thing these roaches can do at this point is, you know, force a cancellation on the 3rd. And if PandaBearMe can do that, that's going to be big, because his 3rd's already ahead. It's about to finish, so you can force Gamja to cancel it, or, you know, even take it out, obviously, it'd be even greater. That'd be worthwhile. But these mutas are already getting an intercept on these roaches. Let's see if PandaBearMe can get some very needed damage here.
Yep, he's focus firing down this 3rd, so hey, you might be right, and this time if he just ignores, well, there's not going to be any Zerglings coming out, and BrwL finishes up once again. So he might be able to do a little bit of damage with that. He even has a couple more roaches moving around on the right-hand side, just checking the gold expansion. But what does he have back at home to defend against these Zerglings?
Well, some queens with plenty of energy, and this wall. So once again, PandaBearMe utilizing, you know, the walling technique to his greatest advantage.
Very well.
Yeah, and these roaches are unburrowed now, trying to make their way into the main base. Spine hits galore on these roaches. Now it's down to 3, and the Overseer, well, shuts it down. These last 3 roaches, and then and the 3rd, not going to be enough.
Yeah, I mean, I like the idea of what PandaBearMe was doing this game, and it's very similar to what he was doing in the game number 1, but he's just executing it better. I'm just not sure if it's doing well enough. He's doing a good job of, for example, look at these Mutals. These Mutals, at what point have they gone across the map? At what point have they been picking off Overlords? At what point have they been putting on counter pressure? PandaBearMe hasn't taken any real damage from these Zergling counterattacks so far. He might take a little bit over here, but he's been doing a really good job of just being able to get up the defenses and buying himself time with those roaches.
Yeah, because we do see spores going up now all over the place, but some of these queens are starting to fall, running out of energy for transfuse, and now the mutas have arrived.
No spores.
And yeah, and the spores are in the mineral lines, which is great, but this wall right here is huge, because that's where all the tech is. It's right for the pickings right now. Let's see if Gamja goes for it. I think he's content to just snipe off units that come out first. Now we have 3 Overlords in sight. Oh, that is rough. Kill the +2 on that evolution chamber. He's probably not going to go for it because of that spore, but that's something to think about.
Yep, something that Gamja can continue to put pressure on with, but Gamja, again, doing something that most Zerg players do not do in this situation. Well, first of all, engaging versus spores, something that most Zerg players don't do with Mutals, but he has a high enough number, but he's continuing to produce more and more of these Mutalists, and that's not standard. Normally, the way that most Zerg players feel about this matchup is you produce 7 to 10 Mutalists, and then you transition out to Roaches and use the Mutalists for map control. He's not doing that at all, Droopy. He's just saying, well, no, Mutalists are working. I'm going to keep making Mutalists. What do you want from me?
Yeah, and I don't blame him because he's ahead. He's so far ahead that he doesn't feel like he needs to go back to PandaBearMe's level, that being the ground level, right? So, well, will this Roach counterattack do what it needs to? It's in his main base, and it's you know, it's getting in some work here. These drones are dying right now. So, you know, Gamja here, he's been hanging out a long time in PandaBearMe's base, and it's cost him when it comes to mining. Look, down to 27 workers.
Yeah, the big scare over here, though, is that Gamja now has an overwhelming number of mules. He can engage versus one or even maybe even sometimes two spore crawlers and not really lose too much. But as long as he's catching PandaBearMe before all of these... Oh my god, these drones think that their SCV is repairing the spore crawler. No, you cannot do that. And the roaches are being cleaned up. There's even some spine crawlers down over at the third expansion. I don't think that PandaBearMe has done enough damage to equalize how much of these mutalisks are doing.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't matter how much economic damage you do to your opponent, because ultimately when your army needs to fight your opponent's army, you got nothing. It's a big 0. So I do think here that Gamja's going to be in control now, and of course he's killed off a lot of workers in that last flyby. 17 now for PandaBearMe. And PandaBearMe is just going to have to rely on these spores here, try to turtle in this small little circle, and then everything else around him just sort of bleeds to death.
I actually don't even think that half of these spore crawlers are even going to be able to get away. The mutalisks count again is just too ridiculous, and we still have more and more mutalisks coming out, Zerglings coming out, and I would not dislike if Gamja just started droning a little bit more at this point. He's starting to do that, He has enough mutalisks to have complete map control. All he needs to do is kind of seal the deal at this point.
Yeah, I'll say. And there's still 3 pesky roaches hanging around that third base of Gamja, but there's a lot more of Gamja's stuff hanging around here in PandaBearMe's base. These lings are going to just waltz in here, well, or not. Guess they're gonna just back off. I think he wants to deal with those roaches. He just F2'd everything. He's so tired of it. The burrow is so frustrating to handle.
They have been dealt with.
Yeah. Well, there's still this one roach over here in the main, but
This is the actual final last hope stand for PandaBearMe, okay? This is his last chance of having any semblance of hope in this game. These 5 infestors, 4 of which are awkwardly popping out at the his old natural expansion, which is now dead. These guys have to fungal growth all of these mutalisks and kill all of them. He cannot mess this up. There's no window for mess ups. There's no opportunities. If he cannot completely massacre these guys and then expand behind this, I don't think it works. And oh, the infestors are gonna get caught by the mutalisks.
Yeah, and so long as Gamja doesn't get fungled over spores, I don't think he's even worried about it too much. He does snipe one of the infestors. The rest do make it to safety in that lair, in the shadow of the lair. But Gamja now, it's kind of tricky for him. You're right. I mean, you know, he gets caught in the fungal blast, and that's going to be really frustrating.
Would it even be enough? Would it even, if Gamja loses every single mutalisk at this point, would you actually say that he's behind? Or even?
I mean, unless he has not injected for the last 2 minutes, I doubt it. He's on 60 drones with his mutalisks. Yeah.
I feel like Gamja would have to pull drones into the engagement against the infestors and happen to get those fungals as well for him to really be in a reasonably losable position. I'm not going to sugarcoat this. Gamja has to make a mistake, a big one, for PandaBearMe to still make this work.
Yeah, and that, I mean, that's PandaBearMe's composition right here. This is like the composition that.
All right, I'm ready for your mistake. I'm ready for it. I don't think that Gamja's ready for that though. He's looking to be in a good position with the mass expansion. There is one sort of fear where Gamja plays a little bit too cautiously. He plays a little bit too safe. And what ends up happening is PandaBearMe slowly gets up this massive number of infestors and high energy queens. And Gamja tries to go for some kind of push-in and just realizes, you know, he just doesn't have quite enough to break PandaBearMe. And it's like one of those really, really weird situations that you sometimes see in like Zerg versus Protoss or like Zerg versus Terran, where the Zerg has all these bases, has total map control. The Terran's just hanging on in that really solid defensive position, the very good defensive unit composition. And that could happen, but I think this is a really smart choice from Gamja to make sure it doesn't. The Greater Spire, the Ultralisk Cavern. Couple of Broodlords, suddenly you can't really be cost-effective defensively. You have to be on the offensive to deal with the Broodlords.
Yeah, I mean, what are you going to do? Fungal Broodlings? That's not exactly, worth it, right?
Cost-effective, yeah.
But,
GG.
I guess, yeah, he flies in and he sees all this tech and he's like, okay, I'm kind of screwed, so. GG there.
I don't
Gamja.
actually feel like playing this out.
Yeah. So, hey, you know what? Why? I mean, it's not over for PandaBearMe.
Yeah.
I mean, Gamja's in the winners match now. Whoever wins that will be qualified in the round of 8. But as far as things go for PandaBearMe, still got the losers match to play out against HuShang. And,